Why are people buying the CZ P01 and why I'm not going to carry it anymore? In my hands, we have the CZ75 P01 Omega. The reason I chose the Omega is I preferred the hammer and trigger over the standard P01. For those that don't know, this is a steel-framed, hammer-fired gun from CZ, both single action and double action, which is a very controversial feature for a carry gun. We'll talk more about that later. Just for a little background, I bought this gun about 1.5 years ago. I've carried it off and on over the course of 1.5 years. I've only probably put about 500 rounds on it. I haven't trained with it as much as I wish I would have. However, I've been focused on a lot of striker fired products for Herrington arms. So this gun has gotten a lot of neglect and I really haven't shot it as much as I should have for a carry gun. Some of you might be wondering why I'm carrying a steel framed 1 pound, 13.8 ounce handgun when there's so many lighter options on the market. And honestly, I just wanted to try it. It's got 15 rounds. It's very cool, it's very unique. It fits the perfect form factor that I like to carry. This fuller sized frame, a shorter barrel length. Frankly, I just thought it was a cool gun, so I thought it'd be great to carry. Coming in at $650, it might be a little pricey for somebody to use this as a carry gun. However, it's not quite heavy enough that I would just roll it out as a carry gun. When I carried this, it didn't feel as heavy as it actually is. A lot of that has to do with a really good tier 1 concealed holster and a really good Core Essentials belt. If I was running a leather belt or a crappier holster, this would have been much more noticeable. Even though this is a steel framed heavy gun, I really didn't notice carrying it too much. It wasn't too bad. I did throw on some aftermarket G10 grip panels. They're a little aggressive. Honestly, I wish there was a happy medium between the rubber ones that came on it and these G10 ones. I might do some searching and see if I can find something a little better, but just know that if you do get these are very sharp and a little bit too aggressive for concealed carry. However, that makes it a little bit slimmer than the rubber ones from factory. So if you're looking to get a little bit slimmer, these grips do actually help thin the gun out a little bit. And the only other accessory I have on the P01 is this Streamlight TLR7. I like this weapon light a lot. We use the TLR7 sub on all of our subcompact handguns, and honestly, I just thought it was the perfect light for this build. I really didn't want a TLR1 on there hanging off the end of the gun. The output is still pretty good with the TLR7. So really, I thought it was the perfect choice, and honestly, carrying it, I didn't even notice it. So I think this was probably the perfect setup for this gun. You guys will notice there's no optic on here. You all know I love carrying an optic. I really wish CZ would come out with an optics ready version because I would probably run an optic. But honestly, these iron sights are pretty good. I actually like them a lot. These are metal night sights, so they do help in the dark. However, you don't really need that when you have a good flashlight. But I really have no complaints. It's just a 3-dot system that looks really good. It's really easy to shoot. They're really small, so they're not gonna get hung up when you're holstering or doing a lot of holster work. Honestly, I don't have too many complaints. Usually, I absolutely hate iron sights and I put a dot on everything, but for something like this, I'm actually pretty happy with it. Moving our way down the slide. This slide has very nice slide serrations. They're very aggressive, both front and rear. The only thing that's kind of weird about this slide is there's like a 1/2 inch of slide protruding the metal frame, and it can be kind of hard to grab it and not grab the whole entire frame slide combo. If let's say you do not get slide lock on a reload, you have to quickly rack this slide back to load another bullet. You'll notice that you're gonna probably end up grabbing some of the slide. It's just a very small amount hanging over the frame. The system works. It reduces a lot of recoil. It's a very low bore axis, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. If you had an optic on here, you could just grab the optic and rip. And that takes me to my next concern is the actual slide lock itself. It's really nice because it's stepped, it's very large. If you do get slide lock, you can hit it very easy, but it's right where my support hand thumb sits, and I find myself holding it down and not getting slide lock very often. So it makes it kind of a pain in the butt to have to rack it with the little bit of slide that's protruding. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm not gonna carry this gun anymore. And these are just little things that can be fixed with training, but honestly, with how many striker fired guns I shoot, and I just shoot them so much better without needing to train again, going from a striker fired gun to this was super awkward. I really opened my eyes today at the range that if I have to switch back and I'm carrying this, I might make a mistake. I might not be used to double action trigger pull. I might mess up a reload if I have to do that. All those little things can definitely be fixed with training, but frankly, I just don't have enough time, and I shoot so many other striker fired guns, I might just mess up regardless. So that's kind of why I'm weeding it out of my concealed carry rotation. And for people that have time to train with this gun, and solely this gun, or even if you have a range gun that's a striker fired gun, but you still practice with this, you're gonna be fine. But for me, I'm not gonna be fine. I feel like I would perform better with a striker fired handgun. So for those that are not familiar, this is a double action and single action firearm. With this handgun specifically, it has a decocker. Push that lever, sends your hammer almost all the way forward, and now it's in double action. I do not care for this double action trigger. Some people love it. It is definitely a safer carry option if you're one that is uncomfortable not having a safety, or you just prefer that heavier trigger pull on the initial round. It's not for everybody. It's definitely not for me, but some people may like it. I'll show you guys what it looks like and I'll show you why I don't like it. So it has a lot of take up, and then if you watch the hammer all the way through this trigger pull, like a 1/2 inch trigger pull, you are cocking the hammer, and it's very heavy. If I had to guess, I would say somewhere around 10 pounds. Very heavy, very long, and the reason I don't like that, and I'm gonna go ahead and point this in a safe direction and pull the trigger. When you pull the trigger on this gun, what you're doing is you're just allowing yourself more time to move. If you don't have a perfect trigger pull, when you go to pull the trigger, there's a lot of time for you to move, a lot of time for you to change your point of aim, point of impact. So that's why I don't like it. If you're in a heated situation, if you pull it fast, that's one thing, right? It's not gonna change very much. But if you're not used to a double action trigger and you shoot striker fired all the time, you're gonna be pulling, and wondering why it's so long. If you train striker fired all the time, when I picked this up for the first time today, my brain had a hard time switching, and that trigger pull was terrible right off the bat. So for me, if I'm gonna carry this going forward, which I doubt I will, I'm gonna leave it in single action, which is hammer back. You can see there's a lot of take up in the trigger, and then you get to a wall, and it has a very long rolling break. It's light, it feels pretty good, but it is long, it is very far back. So my length of pull feels really wrong because it's so far back. And by the time that trigger breaks, the length of pull feels very short for me. So I have a tendency for my finger to want to slide, especially since this trigger is really smooth. My finger just kind of wants to naturally slide down. Just a lot of nitpicky training things with this that would definitely cure with more training. But for me, switching back and forth, it's just kind of more of a pain in the butt. To me, I would rather just stay striker fired with how much I shoot it. But there are a lot of people that prefer double action or single action handguns. And for what it's worth, it's not terrible. It is a double action, single action trigger. So for the people that are used to double single action, the trigger is pretty nice from what I have felt with other guns in the past. It's just not my cup of tea. As for the mag release on this gun, it is very positive. It's not hard to push in. Of course, steel mags are gonna aid with that. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. It feels like it's the perfect size, perfect position. I don't have to break my grip to do a reload. So I'd say CZ nailed it on that. And now for the built-in mag well. I don't really like this that much. There's not very much there. A little bit in the front. I guess you could say a little bit in the back. It's just kind of a small target to hit. Yes, there are smaller mag wells. Yes, there are worse mag wells. But for a steel frame gun, this isn't really my favorite. I butched quite a few reloads today, whereas if I would have had my 320 or a Glock 19, it'd have been a breeze. Would have picked it up right off the bat and been fine. Of course, again, this is a training thing. And for whatever reason, it does have a lanyard loop. I don't know why guns even have lanyard loops anymore. So let's quickly talk about ergonomics with this gun. And all I can really say is that they're amazing. With the original grips, they're even better. They form fit to your hand almost perfectly. The only reason I went with these G10 were to make them slimmer, and they're still great. The ergonomics are still perfect. Point of aim is perfect. There's no hot spots, which is really surprising. I think the undercut on this beaver tail helps a lot. But this being a steel frame gun, they do have machined texture on the front and back, which feels really good. I just don't have anything to complain about when it comes to ergonomics with this gun. It feels really good, even better with the original grips. So well done, CZ. So what everybody probably wants to know is, how does this shoot? Well, it's a steel brick with a low bore axis. So it shoots very soft. It's kind of like shooting a comped Glock 19 or a 320. Very low recoil, shoots very soft. Follow-up shots are pretty quick. I will say, if I had the Cajun Gunworks trigger in here, I could probably shoot it a little bit faster. Any Cajun Gunworks trigger I've seen in a CZ just feel great. One thing to keep in mind is if you do keep this gun decocked, that long trigger pull in the beginning for the double action will feel really weird if you're not used to it. Going from that double action trigger pull right to a single action trigger pull threw me off because I haven't really shot this gun in a couple of months. That can be fixed with training, but it does kind of feel weird when you're shooting, especially coming from concealment. However, a low recoiling 9mm is still really fun to shoot. Even though I'm not going to carry this gun, I'm still going to keep it as a range toy. It's a blast to shoot. And honestly, for newer shooters, even though the triggers are weird, it's kind of good to have somebody shoot this as a beginning gun because it just has low recoil for a 9mm. It's heavy, it's ergonomic, so it's easy for somebody to learn a couple of those fundamentals before they go to a lighter striker fired gun that's going to have more recoil. I think it's very clear that I am not who this gun is for. I'm not the core demographic. I think this gun is perfect for somebody who doesn't want to carry a revolver and wants a little more capacity. This is a very small footprint. Yes, it's a little heavy, but it's going to hold 15 rounds, which is going to be better than a revolver. It's not quite as big as some of the 1911s. You're going to get a rail for a weapon light. You're going to get a double single action all in one package. I think it's for the people that are switching over from revolver to semi-auto. This is probably one of the perfect setups for them. So why am I not carrying this gun anymore? It really comes down to all the little training things. I'm just so used to a striker-fired handgun that switching back to this action just really threw me for a loop. The smaller slide made it a little more difficult for me to perform a reload. These are just chances I'm not willing to take in a life or death situation. Honestly, the gun was a little heavy, so I neglected to carry it every day. And all of that just made me realize that for me, I'm probably gonna carry a 43X MOS or a P365X macro Frankenstein build with a Herrington Arms comp. Those guns I can just perform with best. And I think when you're looking at a concealed carry option, you just need to pick what suits you. Not everybody gets to handle all the guns I get to handle, but a year and a half ago, I thought this was really cool. And it still is, but it's just not for me. It's a perfect range toy, but at the end of the day, I'm carrying a gun to protect my life and my family's life, and there's just no room for error. And so I'm gonna go ahead and choose what gun I can shoot best with. If you guys are fans of the channel, we are running a 15% sale on shirts and merch at harringtonarms.com. So if you guys wanna support us and you guys wanna look awesome, go ahead and check out our shirts. If you guys enjoyed the video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.